Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. We've discussed how networks operate across several videos so far, but we haven't explored what a network is from a conceptual standpoint. So, in this video, we're going to take a step back from the in depth technical workings of how these technologies operate, and we're going to take a look at the fundamental concepts of what a network is, what problems they solve, and how communication has evolved over time to become more network driven. So, let's take a look at what problems a network solves. Before computer networks, if you had information that you need to give to somebody, you would have to save it to a portable storage device, such as a floppy disk, and then you would have to transfer that floppy disk to the person that needs it. And this would be a scenario where, for example, you work in an accounting firm and you have a coworker, Bob, and Bob needs the latest payroll numbers and you're the one who has them. If you want to give Bob an updated copy of those payroll numbers, you would have to save that file onto the local storage medium and then take that out of your computer, physically walk it over to Bob's desk and hand it to him so that he now has a copy of that data. And this is called sneakernet because you had to physically walk the information on that floppy disk to that destination. Now, if it's a small amount of data that needs to go to somebody who works in the other room, that's not too bad. But imagine if you had to move a large amount of data. What if you had to move it to another city or another state? Not only do you need multiple storage devices at that point to hold all the data, but you would also have to spend multiple hours or days just transporting the information to where it needs to go. So, this is what a network was created to address. At its core, a network is two or more devices that connect to a common medium in order to share information. So, while early networks improved on the existing information sharing methods at the time, they could have been much better. Because the early networks used a shared medium, only one computer could transmit data at a time. So imagine you're in a room with five other people. If everybody's talking at the same time, it's difficult to understand what's being said. In order for you to have a productive discussion with somebody, everybody needs to take turns talking, and the same is true with the early computer networks. Unfortunately, taking turns isn't really a scalable solution. What if there's 50 or 100 people in the room? You're probably not going to get a chance to talk at all. So, bridges were introduced as a way to address this problem. Instead of connecting to one shared medium, each host had their own dedicated cable so that they could talk whenever they wanted to. And these cables would all connect to the bridge, which is a predecessor to what we know today as a switch. And besides aggregating all the cables from the individual hosts, the bridge came with some intelligence that allowed it to switch traffic between the ports so that hosts could communicate with each other without broadcasting the information to everybody. And this was an improvement over the shared medium approach where all devices connected to the medium were able to see the communication of everybody else. Now, routers were created to accomplish segmentation, and segmentation is where you logically divide a network to group devices together. So instead of putting sales, HR, and marketing teams on the same network, you can segment them into their own groups. And because everybody is in a different group at that point, and they're no longer in the same network, you can implement security measures to control which groups of devices can communicate together. So, for example, you can allow HR to talk to marketing, but not allow sales to talk to HR. Now let's take a brief look at storage. In the early days of networking, the data that you had on your computer was locally stored. So if you were a company with 500 employees, it was difficult to know who had the data that you needed. And as a result, data centers were created to store all the data. So all the information that the users of the company needed will be placed in those data centers, and the employees of that company would then just use the network to make requests into that data center to obtain the information that they needed to perform their work. Now, data centers are great for storing and accessing information needed within the company, but what if you need something from outside of that environment? What if you're a company with, say, an East Coast and a West Coast presence, and those offices need to communicate with each other? Even if you have the money to run the cable 3,000 miles to make that happen, you probably can't get the needed permission to dig in the ground and lay that cable to begin with. And this is where internet service providers come in. The internet is effectively an interconnection of networks that allows you to access resources that are outside of your local network. And this is where you pay a company like Verizon, Comcast, or AT&T to obtain access to their network and their connections, and in return, they connect you with all the external resources in the public domain. And that's all I want to share with you guys for now in this video. There will be a separate video to go over the individual network devices and their functions and so forth. However, I just want to make this quick video to go over a brief synopsis of what a network is, since we've been so focused on the in-depth technical discussion side of things that I think sometimes you don't see the forest for the trees. So if you have any questions about what was covered, please leave a comment below. And if you enjoy these tutorials and you want to support my work, please like this video and share it with others. If you do have the means, you can contribute to my Patreon or leave a tip in my jar. Be sure to subscribe to stay updated on my latest content, and thank you all for watching.